I think anybody that would jump to conclusions and assume what you're talking about without engaging in discourse to try to deepen understanding and just making judgments and jumping to conclusions that aren't true, then that's like more of an ailment for that individual and the way they process information, you know?
Mm.
Mm.
Well,
I
to
So like
think
go
that.
to
Oh,
so I'll just finish the idea. I understand what you're saying, the desire to speak in a way which doesn't offend anybody, which doesn't even give the opportunity for misunderstanding. Like that is an art form that I think is beautiful as well. But I'm also just acknowledging the other side of it. That's like sometimes I just speak from the heart. And if somebody is like wants to engage in a dialogue with it, if somebody just wants
Yes.
to hate on me and be like, this guy's an idiot, forget that guy, then it's okay.
Mhm.
You know, like okay, like, you know, maybe you be happy and healthy and filled with love, you know, and it's like, what more can you
Mhm.
do?
Mhm.
mm.
I
Yeah, I
hear
think
you.
that
I hear you.
I really think that the idea of being so cautious to not offend anybody takes away from the openness of what our heart can give. At the same time, like acknowledging when we do say things that hurt other people needs to also be a part of our ongoing discourse now. Like it is a part of because the sensitivities that do come with people opening their hearts, everything is going to be more painful to talk about, and that's okay. I want
Mhm.
those conversations. I want people to feel comfortable to approach me and be like, "Hey, I remember when you said this," and I'll be like, "Oh shit, I didn't mean to say that. You know, I didn't mean to like
Mhm.
hurt you in any way." A random memory that came up, and this is kind of it's directly connected with you, Aiesha. So I don't
Mhm.
know how you're gonna feel about this dialogue, but I remember when at one point you messaged me and you asked me why I uh, uh, referred to you as they instead of as she. And
Yeah.
I personally was literally at that point just calling everyone they. I know Daniel and I know Adrian are both identify as male, but because of just it was especially when it came to the show on the show,
Mhm.
it just was like so much easier on my mind to like just call everyone they like I and so at one point that's just what was happening. And so when you brought that up to me to be like, hey, how come you're doing this, like and I would love to hear your opinion on that. So this is an
Yeah.
interesting topic right now because this is exactly what we're talking about. We don't want to be misinterpreted. So I would
Mhm.
love to hear kind of your perspective on what happened there, and I want to like I would love to talk about that just really quickly. Of course, I don't want to take away from but I think it's an important thing to talk about, you know? So it was a moment that happened between us.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, the reason I messaged you is because I figured I'd rather just know why he's doing that. I'd rather understand, you know what I mean? Like, it's the easiest thing. Instead of making assumptions, I was just like, yeah, he always says they. So I'm like, oh, I wonder why he's doing that. And then you just said, yeah, I do that with pretty much everyone if I'm not 100% sure like what their pronouns are. And I'm like, yeah, that makes complete sense because especially today, like there are people with different gender identities and
Mhm.
it makes sense, So like totally get it. And
And yeah, and at that point, it was to the point where, like I mentioned, even people that I knew 100%, it was just this weird instinct that I had, you know. And but like I mentioned too, it was an over correction, I think, in terms of that, because once I know people's gender identity, to acknowledge that as well is part of the work that I need to do, and to take the time to acknowledge that. So it was a great conversation that helped me actually be able to take a step back and really reflect on like how I was using my words and how that does affect the people. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting conversation, and I appreciated it that you felt comfortable enough to like approach me about that. You know, so
can I say
yeah.
something? I'm
Hmm.
sorry. Go ahead, Aisha. I'm cutting you off.
Oh, I was gonna say like I believe open dialogue is probably the healthiest way to move forward. Just
mm,
I've noticed. Otherwise, it creates all kinds of misunderstandings, and
Can I just
it's
say that
just.
going
Mhm.
forward, it's actually great that we're entering a stage where we're calling people they instead of she and he, because the gender, uh, like the division, the dichotomy, is a source of a lot of tension, unnecessary tension over the last 100, 200 years, in the sense that my brother and his partner, they're they're teaching me to say they instead of she or he, especially with their 2-year-old daughter, because they really want her to grow up in a genderless world and in a more equal society. For example, she has a doll that is non-binary.
Wow.
We,
Non-binary Barbie.
it's not a
No,
Barbie,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
but you're right. But it's a brown androgynous looking doll, and we refer to it as they.
Mm,
Um, but it would help to alleviate a lot of the gender stereotyping that happens in society, and to be just a more inclusive society, of everybody instead of putting us into different categories. And I'm really learning to embrace the idea of equality in a really more holistic sense, that we're all theys. I'm not a he or a she. Aisha, you're not a she or a he. We're theys. We're just energy. We're just people. We're all the same. So that's
mhm.
interesting. We'll see how far that goes.
It is an interesting concept. I did want to acknowledge that, like, it is so important to listen when it comes to gender equality and connections, and like just the multitude of genders that do exist at this time. One thing that I did want to acknowledge though too is that also we were brought up with these ingrained gender identities, and for us to push towards disconnecting from and I'm not saying, oh, just because it happened this way, that's the best way. I don't know what the best way is. I'm the same person at one point who said that if you don't raise your kids and hit your kids, then you're doing it wrong. And then now over time I've realized that that is incorrect. That is not the best way to raise your children. That was just ingrained in me because of the way that I was brought up. So take what it is that I'm about to say like with a grain of salt. It is just kind of where I'm at and understanding. If we take away the genders that we were you know connecting with and do identify with even up to this time, and then we absolutely just like choose that everybody is a they, and that you're male and female and non-binary and all of the different pronouns that you may have. If we decide that overarching for everyone, we just take away all genders, I think that that also is dangerous as well too, because that's like wiping out people do have connections to their identities with their genders.
Exactly.
And I think that there is value in that as well too. And I'm not saying that any way is better or worse or whatever. I just wanted to acknowledge that personally, if someone was to tell me that I am a they now and that I am not a male, that would be very confusing and challenging for me. I'm not saying that, yeah, and that would be something that I would have to work through as well. So I just thought that I would acknowledge that. And yeah, I think it's an very interesting topic though.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you on that. 100%. Totally, totally. I feel like however people choose to express their identity should be respected, and that's it. Regardless of whether you identify as male, female, non-binary, trans, whatever it is. Like, I just think everyone's identity should be respected, and that's it.
True.
Yeah. Real talk.
I Yeah, and for me, I just want to kind of pull some of these ideas together. Earlier, we were talking about legacy, or what we can give to the world, or what survives death. And I think the spaces that when you hold a space that allows people to be who and what they are without judgment, then they remember that feeling. And then they can bring that into their relationships as they learn the skills and the value of holding that space. So on like a genetic level, maybe on a mindset level, the youth are more, I think, susceptible to change. And if you're older, it's harder to change. I think that's just maybe logical. But by creating space where people see, oh, it's okay to be myself, it's okay to be wrong, it's okay to just learn and be open about where we're true, who we are, and what we're experiencing. And another idea I want to tie that to was, again, it was the idea of legacy. And I heard the saying once that in the West, people try to encapsulate the idea of infinity. They want to put a marker at the beginning and a marker at the end, and they want to put bounds on the thing in order to make life forever. They need to let it keep going. versus a more traditional Eastern mindset where the eternity or the eternal or the infinite is more accessed within the present moment, because this moment, as you're saying, all the energy is, this is always present. Then it's not about putting bounds on something, on like putting on either side, but experiencing it more from like the moment of the that we're in. And at the very beginning of the episode, you talked about needing to ground because of intensities. And so for me, I'm just seeing how that grounding energy helps you, one, be more present, and it helps you communicate more clearly. And I think it's helping us create that world that we want to create. um, so without really saying anything about like gender identity, just holding the space where people can just speak freely.
And we've spent so much time like fighting to just have that, and that's the thing, that us acknowledging that and taking the time and energy to make sure the spaces are welcoming to everybody to identify exactly as they are. Like I remember growing up, and kids would say, I am like, this is my name or whatever, and people are like, no, it's not, like this is your real name. And then, but if the kid like wants to be named this, and it's their choice to like how they identify in that way. And I think that for us to create spaces where even up till today, like one of the things I love most about FreeFlow is the idea that like everybody come as you are, and like that presence is enough already. We're not needing, like if we have performers, we've had performers before that were like, I know I'm booked on the show, like I'm really sorry, but like I just don't feel up to like performing tonight, And then instead of me responding like, hey, you're canceling your spot, like you're really putting us out, whatever. Like that's how I would say I used to respond to people doing that. It's like, you're messaging me the day before, like what are you doing? Like that's how I would respond previously. Now it's like, just come as you are. If you aren't able to perform right now, I still want you to come if you would like. And if you don't, I'll still send you the link and you could check it out later. And just know that like we're here for you beyond the confines, and it connects to what Daniel was just saying, the confines of what the show is, the beginning and the end of the show. We're beyond just the show. We're also creating like this feeling of acceptance and love and like just presence with the people who are a part of our community. And there's so much value to that. And just quickly connecting to like the mindset of the East, it's like when my grandparents, like when they passed, like, yes, it was really challenging, of course, that their physical self had deteriorated and was affected this way, but their legacies are so powerful, and their presence was felt even more, I would say, because their physical self was still going on here. So a lot of people would dismiss like, oh, they're still out there doing this or whatever. But it's like when they passed, the acknowledgement of their life and their legacy and their existence was so intense and so powerful that it really brought us to that presence, and it really showed who people are now. And that in itself was so powerful, And so people's legacy are beyond them even in that way. It just affects the whole family of that. And if there's anything when it comes to, not only just these conversations, but the experience of legacy and the idea of that, our show FreeFlow has that, but also I would say like Flow Fridays, that is so powerful in what it is that you're creating in that space, like that acceptance of just coming as you are. So maybe if you don't mind, like I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of like how you set up the show Flow Fridays, and kind of what type of mindset you had to building that community.
Yes, I'd love to talk about that. So Flow Friday was a project I started in September 2019. And the idea came about because I'm a creative. I am someone who really thrives in community. And I also wanted to have a space where people could do work, like just work on their projects together, and then maybe share whatever their creative expression is, right? So I was sitting at a cafe called Amp Studio Cafe on St. Clair and Oakwood. And one day I was just like, you know what, I want to start this. And I spoke with the owner, his name's Alton, he's phenomenal. And I said, can we start this? He's like, absolutely. And I believe like that same Friday, I said, we're starting Flow Friday. Basically, I just brought my looper, my speaker. I tried experimenting with doing some live vocal looping with like post-classical music, which was very interesting. And then someone came and he was playing some beautiful, beautiful guitar. And we had another person doing some drumming, and we were having conversations as well about our craft. We were having conversations about the challenges of being an artist. We were having all kinds of phenomenal conversations. And I knew that that was an aspect that I really wanted to bring forward with Flow Friday, that it's a space where you can share your creative expression, share your thoughts and opinions, share your challenges and get support. Have fun and just, you know, vibe out every Friday. So it was a weekly thing. I did it like every single week until the lockdown happened and things kind of switched up. So what was the other part of your question again?
Yeah, I just the building of community and holding space in that way. I just wanted you to take some time maybe to reflect on what it is that you're hoping to create in terms of space for people to come as they are, and which you already have answered. So anything else is obviously welcomed.
Yes, thank you so much.
No
I could go
problem.
on and on and on.
Of course, right? Me too.
So yeah, that is a key aspect of Flow Friday, come however you are. So we do have an open stage every single Friday as well, where people can share whatever they'd like. And I tell people you can share in any language, you can share any format, you can share any medium, any genre, absolutely anything. If you want to stand there and just talk about your day, you're welcome to do that. And that, I think, creates that space for people to just show up as you are. There's no expectations. I also tell people to use the space as an experimental kind of thing. So let's say you're working on a new song. You want to get some feedback on it. You know, it's not finished. Bring it and perform it at the open stage. Let us hear it and give you some feedback. Or if you, for instance, for me, I use it all the time to experiment, right? Like I started this thing called Rhythmic Cocktails because Flow Friday currently is hosted on, it's currently happening on a platform called Bramble. And Bramble is like a little interactive virtual kind of space where you walk around with avatars and move into different rooms and things like that. So in Bramble, there's like a little bar, right? A little virtual bar that you can go to. And I thought, I really want to use this. I haven't used this. And how can I incorporate this bar into Flow Friday? So I decided to start something called Rhythmic Cocktails. Adrian got to experience it this past Friday. And basically it's something where, you know, people come up to the bar and they ask me for a cocktail, but instead of saying like, I want like, you know, I want a vodka with lime, you would say something like, I'll use Adrian's example. I want a dark and stormy with love and affection. So providing like these abstract ideas, different abstract ideas. And then what I do is I synthesize those into some type of either a melody or a rhythm. So I think for Adrian's, his dark and stormy with love and affection, I did something like, and please forgive my voice. Okay, I haven't warmed up yet, but I did something. I did something like this. Like, oh, 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 oh. And that was his little rhythmic cocktail.
Yo,
right?
That's so cool. I love that. I love that.
Such an innovator as well.
So cool.
Sorry, but it reminds me of the poetry lounge in Kensington. There's someone who sits at the bar, and I am typist, and she writes poems on the spot for people in that way. So I mean, like, that's exactly what you're doing, is that people come up to you and they kind of they're ordering art in a certain way. Like, that's like amazing. Wow, that's so innovative and so cool. I love that you're doing that. Yeah. And that I actually was able to see the dark and stormy. Like, that was like so cool that you're able to feel what it is that they're ordering on the spot.
Thank you. And yeah, that was just experimenting, right? It literally was, hey, you guys, come over here. I want to try something with you. And they were happy to oblige. And so that's what Flow Friday is. It's a space where you can experiment. You can try something new. It's a very supportive space. It's a very non-judgmental space. That's the most important thing, is that you will show up, you are not going to be judged. You will be able to express yourself in any facet that you want and try new things, and sometimes share in a vulnerable way. That's one of the things that I love the most about it, is that you can share in a very vulnerable way. And we've had some phenomenal conversations where people dig very deep into places that they don't normally, go into. So yeah.
I have heard multiple times on the show people say, like, I didn't even know I was going to share that, or I didn't know that I was going to talk about this. And to create a space that celebrates that and like that is so present, I think that that's really what it's about, is like your presence is so powerful there, because your non-judgmental mindset, and also the idea of your protective of the space in a way that you have the vision of what you're hoping it to be, and that's what it becomes. Like the strength that you imagine as like what you want the space to be, you're guiding it towards that every single week in that way. A random memory that came to me one time, I came to one of the Bramble shows, and somebody shared very beautifully and very openly, and was quite emotional about it. And then someone immediately came in and gave advice. And I remember you stepping forward and acknowledge that the person is trying to help, at the same time, like this is unsolicited advice. So if you don't mind, I would just love for you to comment on like why that was important for you to do, and how that upholds this openness that you're speaking of at Flow Friday.
Thank you so much for asking that question. You've got a great memory. So what I've noticed is one of the key aspects of being vulnerable is being able to share without having someone jump in with advice. Because first and foremost, nobody really knows exactly what you're going through or what your process or your journey is, right? So I can provide my advice to you based on my personal experience or my personal opinions, but that may have nothing to do with what you're currently going through. And that also prevents you from going through your own process of discovering the answers, right? So being able to share for the sake of being vulnerable, which is healing, it's very healing in itself to just share, this is where I'm at right now. I'm having a very difficult time right now because of XYZ. And to be held in that, and to have people just listen and to be present with you, that is healing. And that's all that's needed. We don't need to immediately jump in with solutions for people's problems. Life is about it's about the highs and the lows, right? We go through all of these things, and it's important for us to have communities where we can get together and share where we're at without people immediately feeling the need to jump in with advice and solutions. And a lot of the time, I've noticed personally that when I have this tendency to like want to provide a solution, it's because I'm maybe uncomfortable with the situation in some way. Like something about the emotion that person is expressing is making me feel uncomfortable. And I have this desire to like, I want to fix it. I want to fix it. But it's not mine to fix. It's really not mine to fix. All I can do is stay present with that person. And from what I've seen, that has had the biggest impact on people. People have, through that, just through being held and listened to without feeling like they're being judged or that I'm going to immediately jump in and try to solve their problem, that has allowed them to share more vulnerably, and that has allowed them to feel as though they're held in a safe space, which allows them to express fully. So it was very important for me to do that.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And as I'm listening to you to talk, I'm thinking just how much sense it makes. Sometimes like I feel like I know things, but then they just make more sense. Like there's like a bridge between these 2 points that are, and the revelation that I'm having is that an event, a space is a work of art. The way you conduct your life is a work of art. The way you hold space is a work of art. And I used to tell people that, art is just a byproduct of good people gathered together. It's like, yeah, let's have art events. Let's sing our songs. Let's put up our paintings, but let's gather and hold space for like love, right? And it was always like, yeah, the event, the gathering, the art is a byproduct. But as I'm hearing you talk about Rhythmic Cocktails, it's like people come in, and there's this interactive where, hey, take these like raw materials and turn it into something. And then you're holding a space where people can express freely. They don't have to be worried about hearing all that's wrong with them or how to be fixed. It's just like there, and that is a creative thing, right? When we let go of the filters, let go of afraid of being judged and just open up to it. So then by demonstrating the example of, hey, let's just riff, let give the ideas, then you're showing how to open up. You're giving an example of how to let things flow through you. And that in itself, it's using art to just become a more lighthearted individual. So like the event and the art and the process of art is like the cyclical like revelation for people that allows them to be more free. Anyways, I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I also believe that it's so important to not build the bridge for people. I think that they need to get on their hands and knees and pick up the bricks, or grab the wood and like actually do the work that's necessary to build that. A great metaphor that I always use, that sometimes people are weird about, or I feel weird sometimes sharing it, but I gotta share it, is I don't think of it like, I used to be the bridge for people, especially when I ran shows. I used to be the bridge, but then everybody would walk all over me. And then I wasn't able to like be my true self. So what I needed to do was I needed to be the troll under the bridge. I needed to be the one to like show up when they were ready for this bridge or when they built this, and I would acknowledge and work on this bridge and make sure it's great. I would ask the questions, but make sure that people are ready for when it is that they are going on to the next stage. But at the end of the day, like I wouldn't stay under the bridge. I would still have to go back to where it is that everybody's going towards, whether it's like our castle or whatever, like the idea of what you were saying before of like being the example of that. That in itself helps people build that bridge, because then we're able to showcase ourselves as the artist, and the openness and that connection to community and all that within ourselves in that way. And that helps us become these role models for the people who a lot of times are afraid of doing the work that's necessary to build that bridge. And I'm not saying it doesn't fluctuate as well too. Some things I'm like on the other side of that bridge and I'm like so uncertain of what's there. And then someone will pop up and be like, hey, I heard that you're trying to learn about dancing or something. Hey, I'm great at that. Just wanted to make sure that you're ready for this type of, like, so it's just, for me, I think that a lot of times everybody's trying to spoon feed too much, and then they're not acknowledging how much work it takes, especially privately, on their sense of self, to be able to get to that point where we are even able to be in spaces that help us open up. So that's why the acknowledgement of presence is so powerful. It's like, you did so much work just to get here already. That should be acknowledged. Thank you for showing up. Now let's go into what it, but like that acknowledgement is so necessary. And I find that especially when we're holding space, to take that moment to, instead of being like, okay, this is everything that's planned. Like that's kind of how I used to think when I would host shows. It's like, oh, everybody just is here for the comedy or the poetry. It's like, no, people are there to have their presence acknowledged, to have spaces that let them show up as they are, to create in a way that's open. And my favorite shows were always the ones when my performers, especially that when the headliner would be like, I wasn't going to do this, but like something made me feel like I should right now. And then it's like exactly what everybody in that room needs to experience or feel. So yeah, I just love the idea of, being able to have people show up as they are. And that's one of the things that you do so powerfully, Aiesha. Like I've seen you just show up and everybody's like experience at that was changed because of your presence, and if it would be, I would love to hear a little bit about kind of the work that you do privately in terms of allowing yourself to be able to show up as powerfully as you do. And I know that it's not always easy, and I'm not saying like that I need any glossy answer in any way. I would love to hear some of the things that you personally do that put you in the position to show up as yourself and as strongly as you do.
Hey, great question. I'm loving this talk, by the way, just putting that out there. Yeah. This is great. So yes, that is such an important question, because a lot of people may think when they see the way that I show up that, oh, it's like, that's completely natural. That's just the way she wakes up. She just wakes up and she's able to hold space. No, there is a lot that I have to work on within myself in order to be able to do that. One of the key things for me that has really made an impact is being willing to ask for support. I have always been someone who I just don't reach out to people. I try to do everything on my own, and I still struggle with that. I still struggle big time with that right now. But I'm learning more and more to start asking for support, start calling in support. And even if I'm not specifically like reaching out for someone, but just like putting the intention out there that, like I could use some help with this area. I could really use some, I could talk, I need to talk to someone. I need to tell someone about something, right? With Flow Friday, there have been many, many challenges, many challenges. A lot of them are interpersonal things that come up. I'm always trying to figure out what's the best way to handle certain situations. And I get very highly affected by, I guess, anytime I feel as though something maybe doesn't work out for people at Flow Friday, or maybe they feel like they were not heard, or they felt like they were not seen, or whatever it is, I always feel deeply affected by it. And sometimes I need to talk to someone and hear their feedback and maybe get some validation so that I can understand that it wasn't my fault, right? I didn't cause the situation to happen. It happened, and that I did everything that I could to work through it. So having a person to speak to and to really provide that validation has helped me tremendously in like keeping me capable of doing Flow Friday, because there's been so many situations where I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I just shouldn't do this anymore, there was recently an individual had even commented like, well, maybe she shouldn't be the host of Flow Friday or whatever. And I remember like that hit me so hard. It's like, this is my baby. This is my project that I've poured everything into. And by speaking to other individuals who were there that night, every single one of them said, Aiesha, you're doing a fantastic job with Flow Friday, and we show up because of the space that you've created. And so it really helps to have that support. That's for me the biggest thing. And then also just like being willing to acknowledge that I'm not always going to be like chipper, and like most of the time I actually have to work myself up to do Flow Friday. I still get nervous. I still like have a lot of self-doubt. But that concept of showing up as you are, because I always tell other people to do that, I also do that for myself as well. So sometimes I'm not feeling good at all. Sometimes I'm feeling very low. Sometimes I'm feeling just like a mountain of self-doubt. And I show up. I just show up. I bring myself there. Sometimes I'll sing about it, right? In the beginning, I'll just pull out my guitar and I'll just sing, and I'll share how it is that I'm feeling. I'll share the kind of week that I've had, and immediately something shifts. And also a lot of the time when I share where I'm at, a lot of other people relate, and then that shifts their energy too in different ways. So yeah, those two things, like support and just being willing to show up, however I'm feeling. Yeah.
So Anto, I was thinking maybe this might be a good chance to talk about Aiesha's new song, and to go back over about the meaning and the inspiration and whatnot, if we agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that would be awesome. And I think that a lot of that comes and connects to what you were just speaking on, the idea of change as well too, and like the strength that you have in community and the strength that you have in like showing up as you are. Like, I think that definitely both of those things are so valuable in terms of like dealing with change. So yeah, I would love to be able to hear kind of the inspiration behind your song, and what it is that you hope that people will be able to not only take away, but experience when they listen to it upcoming, because it's going to be released so soon.
And will you share it with us? Will you share the song with us right now on the show? I mean,
sure.
On this interview?
Like share, like actually play it, or like?
Yeah, play it so we can hear it.
Yeah. Well, if I'm going to be honest with you, my voice is not ready for singing the song right now.
Not to sing it, just to like play it. Like
to play. Yeah, sure. Like I can do a a screen share or something like that.
Yeah, so we can hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely do that for sure. Thank you. So
Because,
yes. Sorry, Adrian?
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm happy to announce Brink of Change is ready. It is ready to be released.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a lot of work. A lot of work has gone into the song. A lot of love has gone into the song. And that is what I want people to feel. When they hear that song, I want them to feel the love that has been instilled in that music. Because I'm telling you right now, there has just been a lot of, I feel a need for people to have hope right now during this time. And I want that song to represent hope for people. I want that song to bring a sense of calmness and a sense of confidence in change, because change is natural and inevitable. So I feel as though instead of avoiding change, I'm hoping that we can start embracing change, and not just embracing change, but celebrating change. Because when we do things in a celebratory way, it actually changes the energy surrounding it, so that there's no longer that fear-based mindset, but it's more of like faith, knowing that we are connected to nature, we are connected to creation, all of creation, and all of nature and all of creation functions in cycles, and therefore we're no different. We function in cycles, and change is a naturally occurring part of the cycle of life. And so once we begin to embrace that and flow with it, then we see that, yes, life itself is a huge celebration. The cycles are a celebration, and the inevitable change that comes along with that is a celebration. So that is what I really hope people feel when they experience the song. I want them to feel joyful. Like I'm currently doing a re-edit of the music video, and when I'm watching it, I'm actually feeling joyful. I feel joyful. And so I'm really hopeful that other people will experience that as well. I think it's very important for us, if we're going to be able to move forward as a society and create the change that we want to see, we need to do it from a space of like, we need to be in a space of accepting and allowing the change to take place. And we also need to be able to envision what it is that we want to see in the future. So that's a huge part of the song. Actually, the first line is, "I see a vision so clear," because that's where it all begins. It starts with that little vision that you have of what you want the future to be like. We start with that vision, we build it up with celebration, with ceremony. And a ceremony, anytime people get together and they have an intention, it can be a ceremony, right? And so when we do that kind of thing, and then we begin to accept and acknowledge change and all that comes with change, and recognizing that we're going to be okay, because everything is going to work out when we are aligned with that change instead of pushing against it. When all these ingredients are combined, I feel like we're going to be able to create that bright future that all of us hope for, that we really want. Like, I don't want to continuously stay mired in the negativity and the imagery that we're being inundated with. I want to start focusing more on what I want to see, as opposed to, the current state, which a lot of it, let's be completely honest with you, a lot of it is being played up by the media to instill fear. And that is just the case, without getting too far into that conversation. We just need to begin to we need to understand that we have, to a certain degree in society, been programmed by media. Now we need to reprogram ourselves back to nature, back to creation, back to the abundance of nature, right? Nature is abundant. It's absolutely abundant. It's rich. I mean, a lot of the imagery that's in the video is directly related to nature. We see these gorgeous animals and beautiful trees blooming and forests and flowers and things like that. Just because I want to show that everything that we need is already here. We already have everything, all the components we need for that sustainable future. We just need to start aligning ourselves with it a little bit more and recognizing that we are part of this beautiful, beautiful cycle of life and creation. That was a very long-winded answer, but yes.
Oh, it was exactly what it needed to be. I was taking notes. That's how good it was. Like, there was multiple things, like when fear flows to faith. That's what I wrote down too. Like, that's like so powerful, especially with flow being like in the middle of like your show. Definitely has that type of impact when taking people's fear, especially of opening up and performing, and creating that into faith. I also like how you, whenever you said joy, you always said joyful, because the fullness of joy is like beyond just the joy that is being presented at first. It's like this fullness that comes with it. And I love ceremony. That in itself is like, that's one of the things that I really acknowledge in terms of like what Flow Friday is, and what I really would love for us to connect Free Flow to more is the idea that it is ceremony, and it is like important to have like consistent things in which we are able to like acknowledge, to like have it as powerful as it possibly can be when we are holding that space. So yeah, I absolutely loved your answer, and thank you for being so thorough. But also, I just want to acknowledge the presence as well. You were just in it. You were flowing, you were going, and you just like felt it all. And like, that means a lot. You know, that's the type of answers that we're hoping for. So it went very well. So that was great.
Can I just say that, yeah, thank you for that answer, Aiesha. You inspire me so much because my entire being resonates with everything you just said and with your song. As people know, I'm involved with the Green Party because I really, really feel that we have to do something to save our planet and to save our civilization. And that's exactly how I feel about the future. We are on the brink of change. We do have the opportunity to create the future that we want. We just have to recognize it and be positive about that, and not be filled with fear, like the fear monger that we're seeing on television, for example. And like Anto was taking notes, well, I was taking notes too. You know, I see a vision so clear, a vision what we want our future to be like. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, man. I really want to share that philosophy with people in the sense that this pandemic has laid bare all our weaknesses in terms of environmentalism, our energy choices, how we work, how we consider work. People try driving an hour to commute to work and staying in, in an office building for 8 hours, breathing recycled air instead of being home with their kids. How we look after our seniors. We stick them into these factories where they're totally left by themselves to wither away. And how women and immigrants have the worst jobs in society, yet they're the most important jobs, because without them we can't eat or feed ourselves or look after ourselves. We really have an opportunity to rethink our society, embrace the change that we have, and recreate it in a way that where we all thrive. And that's the journey I'm on right now. That's the crusade I'm on. And I can't wait to hear your song. I hope you play it soon because I'm dying.
If I might, just a comment and a couple questions. One is, you do such a great job of giving people space. So be as long-winded as you want. This is the time for you to shine. Like, we're here to like honor and appreciate you. So too much is not existing in this space. Just share everything that's on your mind and in your heart. The questions that were coming up for me when I was listening to you talk about the meaning of the song were, so the two power words. Like, there was a lot of powerful words, but the two that are sticking with me are acceptance. Oh, look at that. I forgot the other one. But acceptance, because I'm thinking, I see a vision so clear, and this forward thinking, and I'm wondering, like, does this come with a neglect of the past? Which I don't think that you were saying that. I think it's important to acknowledge the past, maybe, or I'm wondering from you, it's like, I don't think you're denying it. I think it's being forward thinking, where it's like, how am I correct in thinking that way?
Yes, 100%, 100%. Actually, the way that I would, I guess, encapsulate the message of brink of change is that, so when you're on the brink, you have the past on this side, you have the future on this side. We're on the brink right now. And where we are right now is highly related to where we were, and we cannot forget that. But also, we are moving forward at the same time. And one of the lyrics is that we're turning a new page, right? Turning a new page, so that the old page is still there, and we're going to refer to that old page as we're creating the future with the new page. But it's understanding that we are looking forward while honoring the lessons of the past at the same time. And that's where the concept of legacy comes from. And I have a line in the song where I basically say I'm honoring my mother's memory, because my mother died when I was 7 years old. And so by honoring her today, and I guess gathering all the lessons that she was able to distill to me in that short amount of time, I'm able to move forward more smoothly into this new future. So the past and the future are highly interrelated, for sure. Just as long as we understand that we're envisioning what we want to see, not focusing on what we're being told are issues currently, but focusing on what we want to create.
Thank you for clearing that up. I agree. The other question was kind of an idea. Somebody recently told me that people sell on fear, greed, or vanity. These were like the three main selling points. And I brought that up to somebody, and they're like, you know, I went to business school and that's what they taught me, but we're creating a new world now where we're selling on growth. Like this was like, for him, the fourth selling principle, where it's like, no, we can actually do better. We can be more, we can have a more holistic, joyful world. And for me, it was like, because I was like, oh, like that makes a lot of sense. At least like the fear, people can sell on fear, right? But selling on growth, this is like a pretty radical mindset shift, which I think is part of the space that we're all working to create, that, you know, we can grow and change and create that world.
100%. 100%. I've as an economist, someone with a degree in economy.
Nailed it. Never give up, man. Just keep going.
Minute. Oh shit. Anyways, yes, Adam Smith told us a lie. The basis, one of the fundamental bases of economics is that it's based on scarcity, that there are scarce resources on the planet, and that causes competition. Well, our entire economic society is based on systems based on that, and it's a fallacy. We throw away 50% of the food we produce in Canada every year. I'm going to repeat that. We throw away 50% of the food we grow and produce in Canada every year. And there's scarcity, excuse me. Yes, we can definitely build on growth. We can definitely sell on growth. We can definitely do better, 100%.
But that's what they're selling. They're selling that scarcity. They're making people think that 50%, it's because then it's actually better for them to continue growing that stuff. And then, because if not, then people are like, well, what about the farmers? And it's just all mindset of like connecting to that scarcity, and like just the idea of the commercialization of growth. That's something that I also wanted to make sure that we're being quite aware of, and for us to be able to connect to it in a way where it is directed in a positive way, instead of us, like every other thing that's ever been commercialized, to be taken advantage of. You know how many people are out there right now who want to actually truly deeply want to grow and become better people and make the world better, but they're being tricked by the commercialization of growth, and then they're falling into these traps that are constantly set by people who are just really are basically selling to them, and their scarce mindset is making them beg to just be acknowledged and to be cared for and loved in these like places that are being taken. So that's our, I don't know if you guys feel like it's your job, but I know that I am definitely taking it upon myself to make it so that that's a job, like something that I'm really fighting for, is for just people who are vulnerable to not get taken advantage of anymore. And this is a specific thing that I think is happening right now, is that like growth is being sold, but what they're receiving is just constantly not what it is that they're paying money for. So I think that it's important for us to acknowledge this and take the time to have spaces that are for the community, that are not charging in that way, and it's service. And that's like what it is that I feel like we're doing with both FreeFlow as well as Flow Fridays, is to provide spaces where it's the antithesis of commercialization of growth. We are nurturing growth by creating spaces that are not based on commercializing it. So I just yeah, I really believe in that, and I really think it's important. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear the song, please.
Yeah.
If we can.
Sure thing.
Daniel's frozen.
You want me to play the whole song or just like a little snippet? Because I can, what I can do is I can play like a little snippet of the video.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
exciting.
Just a little taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd love to hear even like all that you've spoken about. It was just so powerful. And one thing before too, I love the brink of change that you were talking about, and talking about how it's like the cusp of like the future of like from the past to the future, and this is cusp. That's like the brink of change. But like what that actually in my mind too is that's presence. That's what presence really is. Like the acknowledgement of presence is constantly on the brink of change, because you're allowing yourself to accept the in between of the past and the future in that way. So and I don't know if any of you guys know that theory that the past, the present, and the future are all happening at once.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like, and that in itself, that's why I keep saying, like, if we're acknowledging the present and we're truly living presently, and we're acknowledging the future that we're wanting to create, then the past in itself is being celebrated. The past in itself is being acknowledged, because they're all interconnected in that way. So when you have two of them present, then the third one will always be present. Just like if you acknowledge where you came from and you acknowledge your future, that is one of the best ways to feel so present, is to like find that balance in between where you came from and where you were going.
Exactly. You nailed it. You really nailed it. 100%.
Oh, I'm so excited for this video.
Yay. Okay, just queuing it up here. My computer is being a little bit slow today. So
you have to play more than just a little bit.
I'll play a little snippet, because I don't want to have the whole thing out there before, you know.
Yeah. But you could send us the your audio clip as well, and we'll be able to share it on our platforms as well. We'd love for people to check it out and be able to connect to you before the show.
Yeah, this video isn't gonna be published definitely not today. So
okay.
Yeah, and
awesome.
if we were gonna air this portion in it, it'd probably take the actual file, because we're gonna get a lot of degradation listening to it through a stream here.
Oh, good point. Okay, perfect. Good to know. So I'll do a quick share screen. Yeah, it's being very slow, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, at the release party, I shared the the version that I hadn't looked at it actually. I hadn't looked at my edits at all, and it was just like I was cringing the whole time. And I'm like watching with everyone for the first time. I'm like, oh.
You know what? That's such an interesting point, though, because I feel like when we screen things to people for the first time, sometimes we learn a lot through our projections as well. Like, I'll bring my video to like my buddy who's an editor, and I'll just watch it with him. And even while I'm watching it, even without him saying anything, I'm realizing, oh, that needs to change. Oh, that needs to. It's like when there's another pair of eyes on it, I feel like I at least project what they might be thinking in a different way. I don't know if anybody else gets that.
Definitely.
Sometimes my projections are so wrong of the situation too, which is so interesting. That always makes me reflect on like how I view myself as well too. So yeah, that's definitely something that happens though, especially when you're performing as well. Sometimes I'll look at like how people are reacting, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that would affect people in a certain way, you know?
So did you work on the video since Friday, Aiesha?
I have. I spent a lot of time yesterday. A whole lot of time yesterday.
Okay, good. I'm curious.
Yeah. Okay. I think. Hold on. Let's see.
So good.
Yeah.
Sweating over here.
So that was so good. So fun. So many layers to it. I love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. It was fun to listen with you guys.
I love how it showcased so many parts of yourself, you know?
Yes,
Great.
yes, that was important. That was really important.
Tell us about how you laid down some of the beats and some of the percussion and the tracks and stuff, because it was a really interesting story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share that. So one of my favorite things to do is percussion. You know, even when I was back in school, I used to just hit the desk. You know, it was the constant thing for me. And I also enjoyed beatboxing, and I really wanted the I guess the foundation of the track to be beatboxing. So I was in the studio. I had my looper, and my sound engineer Brian, he hooked up an additional microphone so we could just get like a clean vocal coming in as well. But I use my looper because that's the way I like to produce my music. So it was just for essentially for my comfort to be able to have full access to all the functions of my looper. And then he did what he had to do on his end to loop the vocal that I was creating, or to loop the percussion, the vocal percussion that I was creating. So the song started like this. It started like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Like that kind of beat. And then I was a little out of breath there. I'm gonna do it again. And so it's sort of like this. Something like that. And then I use like different things like table, for instance. Like I don't know if you can hear that. Right? So the table, I would take some like drumsticks and like hit certain things in the room. There's a really cool sound. It's like a wooden, it sounds like I'm knocking on wood, right? And there's like, if you listen very carefully, you'll hear that little bit of percussion. It was just like, and it was using what you call like a frog. I think that's all it's called. It's like a wooden frog. And you have a little stick and you hit it with it. So it sounded like, really enjoyed, you know, some of these little things. Like there's some sandpaper that I'm, you know, there's just a lot. There's a lot of layers of percussion in there, and it was just so much fun to create the foundation of the song in that way. And then after laying down all of these different percussion pieces, I then took out my guitar and started singing the track with the guitar, laid down that foundation, came back, recorded the guitar again on top of that, and then started doing some vocals. And I only did my final vocal very recently, to be honest with you, because I wanted to really work on my voice. As you can tell that in that song, there was a lot of transition from head to chest voice and from chest to head voice. It's like there's a lot of shifting happening there. So in order to be able to do that properly, I really had to strengthen my voice. And I did a whole bunch of different things to be able to get to that point. Vocal warm-ups, vocal exercises, got some vocal coaching, did a whole bunch of things to just relax myself, to, you know, stretching, like the whole thing. Daniel got to see some of that process live. I actually shared, you know, pretty much step by step, like some of the different things I was going through to be able to get the best possible vocal on that day. And yeah, it really is a process, I have to tell you. And then we started in the final, when we did the final vocal take, we did it phrase by phrase. And then we had to nail each phrase perfectly. So it's like the whole thing, it takes hours and hours and countless hours. And then of course, the process of editing, deciding how does that sound there? Is there too much going on there? Should we like pull something back here? Such a process, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So are you the only person on your track? Like you do all the percussion, the instruments, and the singing?
So Bryant is doing the bass, and he does the bass on all of my tracks. Okay. All of the tracks in this album are done by him. He is a phenomenal bass player. He has, I don't know, countless decades in the industry. And so he really is the perfect person. And he really gets my style. He gets what I'm going for. He told me before that, because I really love the bass line he put down for the song, right? And I was just like, oh, when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is so like, it's almost like you read my mind. Because when I write my music, I always envision bass lines. In fact, bass is my second favorite instrument. My first favorite instrument is, of course, the vocals, and then bass. And I always am imagining, how would the bass line sound for that? And the fact that he just automatically kind of gets it, I'm like, okay, this is perfect. Right. So, oh, it's been fantastic working with him in that regard. Yeah. But otherwise, yes, I'm doing, yeah, all the percussion, like all of the percussion. The exception is that, it's not even really an exception, it's more like he added a bit of bounce to the low end of some of the percussion, just because with beatboxing, like I can't get as low as a kick drum. So in order to make sure that there was some punchiness on the low end of the song, he added like a little boom, boom, like a little nice. Which you can hear for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if I can ask you, you mentioned this on Friday, which just blew my mind. You talked about the athleticism involved in singing. Can you touch on that a bit? Because I love that. What does that mean to you?
Oh, yes, yes. Singing is a sport, everybody. In case you were thinking that this is just super easy and that, you know, like, oh no, I've worked on this over a number of years. First of all, I want to share that I have not always been able to sing. I was rejected from 2 different choirs when I was younger. I was told point blank, I cannot sing. And, you know, I really didn't have a voice, to be honest with you. And it's through working on it, through practicing, through exercises, just like you would do in any other sport, right? You're not gonna, like, you know, if you're a weightlifter, you're not gonna attempt to go lift a whole bunch of weight without having first done the training and the conditioning work, right? And singing is a full body process. I use every part of my body from my head to my toes when I'm singing. And so there's a lot of coordination that's involved, and coordination is something that you develop through practice and through working on it. So definitely athletic. When I go and I sing, I end up like sweating. I end up like, poof, like this is a workout. It's a full body workout for sure.
Amazing. Love that.
Oh, dang, I can't hear you. No. And you're not muted, so I don't know.
I love the many layers of yourself that's being shown, of course, but I also feel like there's so many layers that you're trying to connect or that you are connecting with the audience who are listening. Like, you're not just being like, hey, this is a nice sounding track. Like, that's the aesthetics of it is just one layer of it, but like the meaning behind it, obviously, that you're acknowledging, but also like kind of like the emotional connection that you have with the audience that's listening to it as well. And it feels like so many parts of myself were kind of like embraced or enjoyed what it is that you just shared. So, and that's that to me is very important in the type of like content that I get to experience. So yeah, I love the track. I really enjoyed it, and it's so amazing that you're doing pretty much like all of the things that are with it, as of course with the bass, but also just like the many things that you've done just to like get it to where it is, and it's already so great. And yeah, I'm excited to see the video that accompanies it.
Yes, exciting. Thank you. I'm so happy you enjoyed it.
So you mentioned that there's in your video there's you wanted to showcase your mother. There's a picture of your mother. Can you share that with us about the significance of that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, the rap part of the song came much later. So I started writing the song The Brink of Change back in like maybe, I want to say June. I probably started writing that song back in June. I thought it was ready, like, you know, of course, took some time to like revise certain things here and there, but I thought it was ready. I'd actually gone into the studio and I was like, yeah, this is the song. I'd done a few practice runs with it. And then it might have been like, I want to say like a month ago, probably. Yeah, approximately a month ago. I was like, wait a second. I remember writing some lyrics back in 2019, and I think they fit very well with this song. So I went and I, you know, dug them up and added them. And one of those lyrics was that I will honor my mother's memory by being the best version of me that I can be. And so, you know, I feel as though now more than ever, these words are so impactful, because as I get older, I start to recognize that my connection with her, it continues, right? Like, even though she passed away so long ago, like, I'm finding that there are ways that she connects with me still to this day. And it's a beautiful realization, because I didn't necessarily have that in the past. And this is part of the reason why I'm starting to begin to have a little bit more, there's a little bit more celebration within, you know, based on the concept of the cycles of life and death, because I understand that someone dying physically in this plane doesn't mean that they are gone completely from existence. Their energy remains. And so now I feel as though my mom, like when I was doing the filming for the music video, I could feel like the joy of my mother, right? I could feel it was a celebratory occasion, right? And so it is very significant. And it's, for me, it's such a beautiful way as well of honoring her. And something she used to tell me back in the day, she used to say that she wanted to be a backing vocalist. And I was like, that's such a weird thing to say, because most people don't say like, I want to be a backing vocalist. They say like, I want to be a vocalist, right? So I always thought it was such a weird thing for her to say. And I actually feel truly, truly right now that she is my backing vocalist, like 100%. When I go into the studio, she's there and she is backing me up and continues to, and will continue to do so. So yeah, it feels fantastic to be able to finally understand that she has always, always, always been with me throughout all this time.
Nice, I love that.
That's so powerful. And like that connection with your past with her, and bringing that into like your present now, is setting you up for such success in the future. And that vision that you're seeing is like going to be fulfilled because of that strength that you have from your past and your present, you know? So that's beautiful. And also to all the people that like didn't accept you into their choirs previously, maybe you just needed to like have your mom as your backing vocals for you to get your voice to where you needed, you know? So now if they heard you, they would be blown away. Like your voice is so powerful. And I would have never known that, because and that's the humor, I guess, even in life, of like, you know, people tell me all the time, oh wow, you speak so well, or like whatever it is that there's, or those things. And it's like, you don't understand the work that took to get here, you know? And that's like, we never, and that's one of the reasons, I guess, it connects back to the idea of like people giving advice. It's like, there's just so much stuff behind the scenes that nobody sees. And for you to tell us that, like, you know, you were rejected by these entities previously, it's like, I would have never guessed that, because like, that's one of the things that I always thought that was the most strong with what it is that you shared, was your vocals and your voice. So yeah, it's really cool to be able to know that it also was worked on. And I think there's actually even more honor to that, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of beauty to that you cared enough to put the time and the energy into that. Because anybody can have can have that talent, but like to actually put in the hours to achieve what it is that you're needing, there's a lot of meaning and beauty to that.
Yes. And I do think it's important for people to understand that it's a process, right? Just like anything else, it is a process. So I'm currently at a point where, because I've been through so much of this process myself, and I've developed my own voice, I've taken my own voice from, you know, having from lacking in several different facets to now being a very well-rounded voice. And I'm still working on it constantly. So because I've taken myself through that process, I'm at the point where I am welcoming other people to come through and learn some of the practices and techniques and tips that I have. And also I'm an intuitive person. So a lot of what happens when I'm coaching people on their vocals is very much intuitive and very much based on that person in the moment. So that's something that I'm really excited to start doing more of. Definitely working with people to help them free their voices, right? My album coming out May 5th is called Freeing My Voice, and Brink of Change is the single from that album. And Freeing My Voice, like that name is so relevant for me and for my process that I've been going through for multiple reasons. But if we're just going to focus on simply like what we know as like the physical voice, it has been a period of like really digging deep. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with other people so that they can also free their voices. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I definitely would love the idea of helping however I can for us to connect our communities in a way where you can hold a workshop or something for everyone to help free their voice, and to do some of the exercises that you've gone through to help free your voice in that way. And I feel like that might be really cool to pair it with the actual release of the album at some point too, for you to be able to hold space like that. And I would love to attend that workshop as well too. I've been singing so much privately lately, so it would be awesome to be able to come in and learn a little bit more of that. And actually, Daniel had mentioned about the idea of like a full weekend, like where there's like a festival and like stages and workshops in Queen's Park, like that whole idea, like he was just talking about that, and it's kind of amazing, like being able to hold space that way would be so beautiful in such a amazing space as Queen's Park. You know, that'd be amazing for us to be able to figure out a way to be able to do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. That's super exciting. Yeah, you can bring together different arts communities, and each one has
the Flow Festival.
The Flow Festival. I'm so down
Yes.
for that.
And we would like, that's the thing is like, you know, even from the beginning. Oh, I wanted to make sure that we talked about this, how everybody felt when we first had that conversation about our two shows. Like, I always thought that was such a powerful moment in all of our, well, my career in general. Like, I felt like so great about that conversation, and how you must have felt going in, and like all the layers of what that would be like. I would love to share a bit of that tea with everyone before before we you know, end today. Like, I think that was such a powerful moment for all of us, I thought, you know. Yeah, so just a reminder of that, like we were both running shows, and you were doing Fridays and we were doing Saturdays, and at one point we actually were doing weeklies, and then it was the conversation that was kind of necessary to happen, to like, they were both so similar. Ours was called FreeFlow, yours was called Flow. Like, we didn't know about your show before. Well, I didn't know about the show before we named it and things like that. So just how it all kind of came together in that way. And for us to be here today, it's like a celebration of kind of like that moment of like, it could have gone completely differently, you know? So how was that for you? Like, kind of going in, what was that experience like for you? And what was your thought process when you found out about FreeFlow and things like that?
Yeah, so actually, I just want to also just make a quick correction. So initially, you were also doing your show on Fridays, and that was where the problem came in. So initially, you guys were doing a monthly show, and it was on a Friday, and I was like, okay, that's okay. It's monthly, and mine is a weekly show on Fridays. That's all good. But then you guys turned it, during the pandemic, you turned it to weekly. And so it was every week on a Friday, and it was called FreeFlow Showcase, and mine was called Flow Friday. I'm like, these are very similar. And also we have a lot of overlap with the communities that we work with, right? And so I had noticed that, and I remember like, oh boy, I didn't feel very happy about that at all, especially because, you know, there were people in the crew who knew me and who just knew me, right? I didn't know you yet until at that time. And so at first I took it personally. I thought like, oh, they're trying to push me out. They're trying to exclude me. They're trying to like, whatever. Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind. And then, yeah, like, I mean, Adrian, maybe you can share the next part of that story.
So, well, a good friend of ours sent me a message and went, oh, Veronica Tigaleva. And she says, what the F, what's going on? Why are you guys competing with Aiesha? And then it just dawned on me, like, damn, what are we doing? So we talked about it amongst FreeFlow, and we decided, yes, let's reach out to Aiesha. So we reached out and we created, we set a time to have a discussion, and it was a really, really positive discussion. It was really, really positive conversation where we realized that like we didn't mean any harm or any ill will to Aiesha's show. It's just the way it worked out. I mean, even the name that we chose, Free Flow, I think came from Daniel's creative genius, but he didn't realize that Aiesha had a show called Flow Friday, and we just all went with it. And but I think what was important though is that we opened up, we had a dialogue, we shared how we felt, and then in the end, it turned out to be something really, really positive. Instead of self-destructing and us fighting and competing, it turned out to us collaborating and working and boosting both of our shows, and it worked out well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And when you reached out to me to have the conversation, I remember I felt there was like a tenderness that I was experiencing that day. And when I entered the meeting, I immediately, I was extremely sensitive as well at that time. And I just remember like feeling like almost like, okay, you should hold it together. Come on, just share what you're feeling, you know? And so I came in and I literally just shared with you guys how I was feeling about the situation. I shared, you know, I was very vulnerable in sharing that, like, I have a lot of issues with feeling like I'm being pushed out of situations because that has happened before. And so, or feeling like I'm being in some way, I guess, stepped on is the term I might have used at the time. And so I was able to share that. And then as I was looking at your faces, as I was sharing that, I could see such genuine empathy and such like, oh, it was actually such a healing experience for me to be able to see that genuinely you were apologetic about it and that you were willing to make any changes necessary to, you know, prevent any kind of ill will going forward. So right off the jump, like I remember you came in with a solution. You were like, so we're going to change FreeFlow Showcase to Saturdays. So that's all good. And so once he said that, I was like, that's perfect. You know, as long as we're not competing, because I personally don't like that. I don't like competing at all. You know, especially with something like what we're doing. So once he moved it to a Saturday, I was like, perfect. And, you know, everyone apologized so sincerely. I could feel it from you. I think it was really healing for me to connect and like to share with you why it is that I was so, why I was feeling such sensitivity around the issue. And yeah, we were able to move forward with it. And I think that like maybe that same week, I showed up at FreeFlow Showcase for, as one of the featured performers. And then you guys have shown up for Flow Friday as well. So it's been very beautiful. I'm so happy we were able to resolve it and that we can be friends and we can, you know, have these conversations and continue moving forward with what we're doing, because both of our platforms are offering a lot to our communities. And so I'm happy we can continue to do that and support each other.
Absolutely. I would say that I was trying to push you out. Just kidding. I wasn't actually. They all told me not to. Well, thank God. No, I'm just joking. But like, I honestly felt like at that time too, like one of the things that kept coming up in our conversation previous to you showing up is like, everybody was like, imagine what it would be like if you were just running it by yourself and you saw another group that was like on it. We spoke about that empathy so much before you came into the room as well too. And that was something that I was really proud of our group for as well too. And just like, it was such an important step for us, because if we wanted to embrace your show the way that we definitely wanted to, it was important for us to make a change in that way. And we were so excited to have you on the show, and you make our show so much better. Like every time that you come on and you freestyle and it forces people to be so present, because, and like anytime you're like, hey, give me a word, you could just see our chat blowing up. And then when you're done, like everybody just like loves what it is that you're doing, and you're so present for it, you know? And so yeah, it's been so great for us to have you, and you've been such a great even to a certain extent, you have some very powerful mentoring moments for us, like that we've needed your support, and you've been there. So just a huge thank you from myself personally, but also from like our entire like FreeFlow crew. Like our show would not be the same without you. Like I honestly believe that they're like sibling, like sister shows, you know, like they really work so well together. And even moving forward, like the idea that you're holding space every Friday, and then for us to have like a monthly Saturday show, it is something that we're super open to. And you've also sent like performers to us as well, and they've showed up as well, you know. So they just support each other so much, and they embrace each other, and they have such a similar message in terms of like holding space and loving our communities and going into the like future together in like such a beautiful vision. That's like everything that we're kind of just both working towards, just different style of platform in that way, I guess, you know. But I'm so happy that like we're able to celebrate you this month, honestly.
Yay, celebration.
Same here.
Woo-woo.
So okay, there's a song. So okay, so Aiesha, I've been watching you, following you for the last year, and I have to say I've noticed that your voice has gotten stronger, and your range is huge, and it's like you remind me of Etta James and Nina Simone and those beautiful classical singers. And honestly, you've got a killer ass voice, straight up. Now you were doing, an artist passed away a few months ago, and you were busking a song on the street. Do you remember what song it was? Was it Bill Withers that passed away recently?
Yeah, Bill Withers. I think he passed in like maybe November or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a song that you were singing on the street. I've been going through my library trying to find the song. It's not Lean on Me. It's not
Change Gonna Come.
Change Gonna Come. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Sam Cooke.
Sam
Cooke.
Yes.
That's, oh my God. I heard you singing that song and I had goosebumps.
Oh,
Goosebumps. And you were doing it a cappella. I was just like, damn, this woman's good.
I had a backing track. I did have a backing track playing.
Okay, good. I just want to say that honestly, I love that song. Change is Gonna Come. Thanks, Sancho. It was driving me crazy.
I knew way before, like even in our meeting, and you were asking for it, but I just like seeing you, you know, just
yeah, whatever.
Oh, you just wanted it so bad, and I just couldn't give it to you. It's just way funnier seeing you squirm, you know.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Anyways, I'm tempted to put you on the spot and ask you to sing a few bars of that, but
not right now. Not right now.
And he was like,
This
no.
guy,
You can always just show a clip from the video. It's on my Facebook and my Instagram, so you can always show a clip if you want.
Can you hear me now? Is it working?
I hear you.
Yeah, it works now? Oh, awesome. Cool.
I thought you were going to say something. Just like, can you hear me? I'm not
just listening. I was just wondering if I had the ability to talk anymore, or if it was permanently gone.
No, it's there. But I think right now would be a great time to just acknowledge like kind of like how amazing the conversation has gone, and I'm like super happy that we're able to do this. I would love for us to be able to like continue this open discourse like on your show on Flow Fridays, you know, like if what was we'll actually post the Instagram actually, so people can go visit it and be able to keep up with that, as well as any of your the releases that are going to come up. Like we'll share it on the FreeFlow platforms as well. I also wanted to ask, like, is there anything that you personally wanted to talk about today that you really wanted to get to and then we didn't get to talk about today? You're totally welcome to share that now if you'd like.
Sure, thank you so much. So I'd like to just very briefly kind of share what I'm about, essentially. So I am a creative person, first and foremost. That's very much part of my identity, being a creative person. And being someone who's intuitive as well, and someone who can create space for others to create and to share. So that's super important for me. So I have a website called intunecreative.com. And if people wanted to go check it out, you'll learn a little bit more about me. Also, that is where I'm going to be selling my single. So it is available there if people want to grab it. Also, if people would like to follow me, my Instagram is @soulsis.aiesha. That's @SOULSIS.AIESHA. And definitely it would be amazing for people to follow my journey, because there's a lot of stuff that's coming out. And I'm excited to share. I'm excited to share my process as well. I always believe that you don't have to necessarily share a finished product. You can share your process. It's very helpful as well. Like, it's really cool to see, Daniel, some of the stuff that you've been doing of sharing your process with production and things like that. And so I'm all about that, and definitely going to start doing more of that type of work as well. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. That's me in a nutshell.
Could you tell us your website again?
It's intunecreative.com.
Okay,
and yeah, we'll provide the links and everything after this as well, so people can have those. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And you did such a great job to like put it all together, because that is how I view you as well too. And definitely like your community holding space powers is just very connected with everything that you just shared as well too. So it's very, very great to see that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about that process and the connection to that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Looking forward to all of us seeing each other in our unfinished, in our perfectly imperfect states. I am very excited about that. I think as artists, we have a really, really exciting role that we can play in just inspiring people. And I think by showing more of our process and more of our flaws, it also opens up people to seeing that, oh, you know what? It's okay for me to not be perfect. It's okay for me to,
exactly.
to not have it all figured out. So yeah, I'm excited for us all.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. It was really lovely. I really appreciated hearing your perspectives and learning about you a little bit more. Thanks to Anto and Adrian for sharing as well.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to have you on our show as well too. By the time this comes out, of course, the show have already been happened, but to be able to see you do like a full set and to be able to share whatever it is that your heart desires, there's no specifics. It would be great to hear this song, obviously, but at the same time, like completely understand if that's not part of that space. But we could also play the song on the show and everybody could dance to it and experience it as well. That's also an option connected with your set. So whatever that looks like, we're just going to be present and we're going to be there, and we're going to enjoy all of the everything that we experienced in the past, and then this brink of change that's happening right now. Like, that's what we get to celebrate with you, and for you to be so present with us today just shows how amazing it's going to be to have you on our show. So it's going to be really great.
Woo!
Yeah. All right, sweet.
Amazing.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. And I'm very excited to be on the next FreeFlow Showcase. Woo, it's going to be exciting.
No, I can't wait.